The government will consider including the public interest defense in Article 23 legislation. Beijing officials call the 5% GDP growth target realistic and achievable. And in the U.S., Joe Biden and Donald Trump sweep to victory in Super Tuesday primary races. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. In a joint meeting held at the Legislative Council today, the government said it will consider including the public interest defense in its legislative work on Article 23 of the Basic Law. Justice Secretary Paul Lam also stressed there's no intention to ban any social media platforms in Hong Kong.
1 week after the consultation period for Article 23 legislation ended, some lawmakers who attended the annual session of the National People's Congress in Beijing rushed back to Hong Kong for this additional meeting scheduled at the Legislative Council today. That's to scrutinize the government's consultation document that summarizes opinions collected for the proposed legislation. They say suitable suggestions will be taken into consideration when finalizing the bill. That includes adding the public interest defense for leaking state secrets.
Why would you think that safeguarding national security would be inferior to some other public interests?
The overarching principle is that nothing trumps national security, and we have to look at the case on a case-by-case basis. The threshold for a public interest defense will be high.
The Secretary for Justice added the burden of proof for the public interest defense will lie on the one who invoked it. Another concern, some suggested banning certain overseas social media platforms.
Hong Kong says signal should be prohibited in Article 23 proposal.
At noon, Bloomberg has issued, and then I received comments, and people are scared. They're wondering whether Facebook and YouTube will be banned, and then their children won't come to Hong Kong. I can categorically say that we do not intend to ban any social media apps. Hong Kong is an international city. We need freedom of information. We have grounds to suspect that there are people trying to stir up trouble, and these people are engaging in scaremongering to impede our legislative exercise.
While the public consultation document has no timetable set, it stated that the government will facilitate the relevant legislative work and strive to finalize the Safeguarding National Security Bill as soon as possible to have it scrutinized at the Legislative Council.
In the second session of the 14th National People's Congress in Beijing, a press conference focusing on the nation's economy was held today, with ministers offering their analysis on the economic trend this year. This, as the National Development and Reform Commission stressed, the government's target for economic growth is realistic and achievable. Timothy Lee tells us more.
Premier Li Qiang set a GDP growth target of 5% this year in the latest government work report during the opening of the annual session of the 14th National People's Congress. The National Development and Reform Commission emphasized the target was determined through a scientific process and befits the nation's economic potential. The Commission noted it understands that in the manufacturing sector, there are some operating difficulties, but he's confident that the GDP target will be reached. NDRC Chairman Zheng Shanjie stressed all countries and territories suffer from economic woes over the course of their development. He added that the 5% growth target meets the requirements of the nation's 14th five-year plan. The government work report also mentioned the need to promote stable consumption growth. This, as the Ministry of Commerce said, there are currently more than 7 million vehicles in the nation older than 15 years. In addition, an average of 270 million home appliance products surpass their standard lifespan each year. Minister of Commerce Wang Wentao pointed out the potential risks some of these older appliances may carry. He added that consumers buying new replacements will help boost the nation's economy. Wang noted foreign trade will be significantly affected this year owing to the tense geopolitical situation and major elections taking place around the world. But he noted recent export figures indicated a positive trend. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
Vice Premier Ding Xuexiang met with Hong Kong and Macau members of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference in Beijing. Some Hong Kong delegates quoted Ding as saying the city should complete its Article 23 legislation as soon as possible. They said the vice premier believes the legislation will ensure further development of the city and improve the livelihood of residents. It was Ding's first meeting with delegates from the two SARs during the current two sessions gathering in the capital. Former chief executives Leung Chun-ying and Edmund Ho, as well as Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office Director Xia Baolong, were also in attendance. Leung, who presided over the event, emphasized Ding's concern about the full implementation of the one country, two systems principle. Some delegates said the vice premier delivered a message of care from President Xi Jinping and central authorities, as well as their hope that Hong Kong can further integrate into the nation's overall development. The delegation of Hong Kong deputies to the National People's Congress held a plenary session today to discuss the central government's work report and budget. Held in the Hong Kong Hall at the Great Hall of the People, the meeting was attended by Deputy Director of the Hong Kong and Macau Affairs Office, Zhou Ji, and Zheng Yan-xiong, the Director of Beijing's Liaison Office in Hong Kong. Among the 16 Hong Kong deputies was Kenneth Fok. He suggested transforming the Greater Bay Area into a hub for international cultural and sports mega events to attract tourists. Another deputy, Nancy Ip, who is president of the Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, suggested the city could contribute to the country's new productive forces, mentioned in Premier Li Qiang's work report yesterday. They include the advanced application of new technology and frontier research and the grooming of talent. In the United States, voters across 16 states and one territory headed to the polls on Tuesday in the largest contest so far in the 2024 presidential primary elections. And polls show that President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump are racking up wins in nearly all primaries, all but clinching their party's nomination for a historic rematch in November. But Republican Nikki Haley denied Trump a clean sweep, winning Vermont in the Super Tuesday races. Tracy Furness has more.
Trump won the Republican votes in a dozen states, including delegate-rich California and Texas, brushing aside his only remaining rival, Nikki Haley, who no longer has a viable path to the nomination.
They call it Super Tuesday for a reason. This is a big one. And they tell me, the pundits and otherwise, that there's never been one like this. There's never been anything so conclusive. This was an amazing night, an amazing day. It's been an incredible period of time in our country's history.
More than a third of Republican delegates, 865 of 2,429, were up for grabs, with at least 1,215 delegates needed to win the nomination. Voters have come out across the country to vote, and their reasons to vote have varied.
Moving into a presidential election, I think that my concerns are still over another Trump presidency, and so that's kind of really weighing heavily on my mind as we move into 2024.
I voted for Trump today, and I am really happy so that we can get our country back to normal. And I think the biggest problem right now is the southern border.
About a third of Democrat delegates also were at stake in primaries across the country, but President Joe Biden does not have to face a serious challenge for his party nomination. Biden was sweeping every Democratic contest on Super Tuesday, except for American Samoa, where he lost out to a previously unknown candidate, Jason Palmer. Palmer won 51 of the 91 ballots and Biden 40.
Biden versus Trump, the rematch is now all but assured after both men romped their way through Super Tuesday. They each did have a hiccup. President Biden lost in American Samoa, while Nikki Haley scored her second win of the nominating cycle over Donald Trump in Vermont. But she wasn't able to capitalize in states that might have really helped her, like in Virginia and in Maine, with their big swaths of moderate voters. Now, even with their big wins, even with their big delegate hauls, neither Biden nor Trump can call themselves their party's presumptive nominee just yet. That will likely happen soon, but more states need to vote first.
Not enough states will have voted until later this month for Trump and Biden to formally become their party's nominee. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
The Philippines summoned China's deputy chief of mission in Manila to protest against what it called aggressive actions by Chinese vessels against a resupply mission for Filipino troops on the South China Sea shoal. Manila said Philippine vessels carrying out a routine mission to the second Thomas Shoal, which China calls Renai Reef, were harassed and blocked by Chinese maritime militia and Coast Guard ships on Tuesday. China said Philippine ships had illegally intruded into waters adjacent to the reef, so it had to take control measures. U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller called China's actions provocative, adding that they showed a reckless disregard for the safety of Filipinos and international law. In Beijing, the foreign ministry hit back at Manila and Washington. Spokesperson Mao Ning said the U.S. State Department disregards facts, distorts truth, and unwarrantedly attacks and accuses China's legitimate and lawful actions to safeguard its rights. She said the U.S. frequently threatens China by supporting the Philippines' provocation and infringement on China's sovereignty, and that Beijing firmly opposes this. After 3 days of talks in Cairo, negotiators have yet to make a breakthrough in efforts to secure a ceasefire in Gaza, days before the start of Ramadan next week. The Muslim fasting month presents an informal deadline for the deal amid a mounting humanitarian crisis. Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians are scrambling for food in the north, despite a long line of aid trucks waiting idly outside Gaza. Nasvi Karim has more.
Children in northern Gaza feasting on bread. What used to be a staple, now a luxury. They and their families are heading south, trying to escape starvation in the north as Israel and Hamas continue to dither on a ceasefire deal, days before the start of the Muslim fasting month of Ramadan. Agencies say around 700,000 people in northern Gaza are facing famine, dozens of children having already died of malnutrition. Benny Gantz, a member of Israel's war cabinet, met Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer in Washington, having had meetings with Vice President Kamala Harris, Secretary of State Antony Blinken, and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. Austin asked Gantz for his support in ensuring more aid reached people in Gaza. While humanitarian aid is a priority, it is also conditional as part of the deal presented to Hamas that would ensure a 6-week ceasefire and the release of the 100 or so hostages still held by the group. U.S. President Joe Biden says a deal approved by Israel is ready and is up to Hamas to accept it.
It's in the hands of Hamas right now. The Israelis have been cooperating. There's an offer out there that's rational. We don't know what. We'll know in a couple of days if it's going to happen. But we need the ceasefire.
Hamas, however, wants a permanent ceasefire, not a pause, and only then will release hostages. Israel, whose representative did not attend talks in Cairo, is also demanding a list of hostages who are still alive. At the United Nations, the U.S. blocked a 4th Security Council resolution that would have called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, a move that drew criticism from Geng Shuang, China's deputy permanent representative to the UN. He said the U.S. has been the only country to abuse its veto power, despite broad consensus of the Security Council, causing widespread discontent in the international community. Geng urged Israel to stop discrediting the two-state solution and to end its illegal settlement activities. Nazri Karim, TVB News.
And still ahead, a foggy day in Hong Kong, but cool weather is on the way. The International Criminal Court issues arrest warrants for 2 Russian military commanders. And a traditional wild village treat for some participants of the Live Hong Kong golf tournament. Welcome back. Hong Kong woke up to another foggy day today as a warm and humid airstream ratcheted up the relative humidity to nearly 100% in various districts. But brace for much cooler weather starting tonight with the imminent arrival of the northeast monsoon.
The city enshrouded in dense fog. Looking from the peak, the city's world-famous skyscrapers are blanketed. Chiang Mai Bridge partly disappeared into the mist. Enveloped too are the waters of Ching Lung Tau at the westernmost tip of Chun Wan. A mirage-like scene in Cheng Yi. Visibility across multiple districts diminished to around 100 meters at noon. The humid and drizzly spring season has also brought dampness indoors. Chinese medicine practitioner Yip Ka-ho says the humid weather might weaken people's perspiration, metabolism, and digestion, as well as worsening the symptoms of rheumatic and joint diseases. He said for those with digestive issues, eating dried tangerine peels, Chinese yam, and pearl barley could help. But such weather is poised to change tonight. The observatory said the mercury will dip to 19 degrees Celsius on Wednesday evening, or 16 degrees over the next 2 days, as a northeast monsoon is poised to usher in cooler and less humid weather to the coast of Guangdong.
The International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for top Russian commander Sergei Kobylash and Viktor Sokolov for suspected war crimes in Ukraine. The ICC based in The Hague said there were reasonable grounds to believe that the two were responsible for missile strikes carried out by the forces under their command against Ukrainian electric infrastructure from October 22nd, 2022 until March 2023. The ICC said the attack caused civilian harm and damage that would have been clearly excessive to any expected military advantage. This is the second set of warrants for the arrest of Russian officials related to the war in Ukraine. In March last year, the ICC issued warrants for the arrest of President Vladimir Putin and Children's Commissioner Maria Vavlova-Belova on war crimes charges related to the reported abduction of Ukrainian children. Moscow denies war crimes in Ukraine and has dismissed previous ICC war crime arrest warrants as part of a biased Western campaign to discredit Russia. Production at Tesla's electric vehicle plant near Berlin came to a standstill on Tuesday, and workers were evacuated after a power outage that officials suspect was caused by arson. Officials in the state of Brandenburg said someone deliberately set fire to a high-voltage transmission line. It caused a power failure in nearby towns, including where the Tesla factory is located. Environmental activists have been staging a protest in a forest near the plant against plans by Tesla to expand. Tesla opened the factory in March 2022. Tesla boss Elon Musk described the attack as extremely dumb after it delayed the production of about 1,000 vehicles. Local media published a letter said to be from the far-left Volcano Group, which claimed responsibility. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.